say we are live. Okay. Hello, everyone. It's Bill, the knee pain guru, and this is a special edition of the daily videos that I normally do, and it's around how knee pain is affecting your sex life. And I actually did a video, and this is around how this came about. I was doing a video a couple of weeks ago around the same subject, and as I was speaking about it, I thought, oh my gosh, my friend Rebekah, who also lives in the Asheville area, Rebekah Beneteau, would be a perfect person to have on the call with me to dialogue about this topic, as Rebekah is an intimacy expert. So I am, let's see, I want to read her bio here. Rebekah is a nationally known sex and relationship coach, healer, and workshop leader. Her podcast, Ask Me Anything, Love and Sex Show on Blog Talk Radio, and her vodcast, The Rebekah Beneteau Show on YouTube, has helped thousands of people have more gratifying relationships and sex lives. Her mission in life is to transform the world by helping people allow and express their authentic sexuality. Now, with an intro like that, perfect person to have a conversation with. So welcome, Rebekah.
Thanks, Bill. Thanks for asking me to come talk to you about this. It's a great topic, I think.
Of course. So if there's anyone that has questions, like as we're going through this, challenges they're running into either with pain in their knees, pain in their legs, or questions for Rebekah, please type them in the comments section below, and we will address those in the call today. So before we get into talking with Rebekah, getting any deeper, what I would, oh boy.
Oh, Bill, you sweet talker, you.
Okay.
Let's get deep.
Got me off track. This is
okay, I'll behave.
I got into this topic. In actuality, this a few years ago, this was about 4 or 5 years ago, I was approached by a friend of mine we went to high school with and said, I have a friend that I'd like for you to work with on his knees, and he lives out in Nevada. This is a really funny story. And I didn't know this guy from Adam or anything like that. And my friend actually flew me out to work with this gentleman out in Nevada. And he was facing down a double knee replacement surgery. And his name is Dennis Hoff. And he is the owner of the Bunny Ranch.
Oh, wow.
In Nevada. So I was flown out and worked with Dennis on his knees. He wasn't on his knees, but he was having issues with his knees to get him out of pain over a period of 3 or 4 days. And we got some great results for him. And so it's interesting how this topic kind of has full circle as far as how much, Dennis was in his 60s. And of course, he's surrounded by all of these women, and he couldn't bend his knees. He had lots of issues as far as having sex. And anyhow, so that was a little bit of a note that's going on in my history in terms of working with clients who have had knee pain, and like to add that. I don't think you knew about that.
No, I know. I never heard that story.
So there's actually a video on my YouTube channel of his testimonial after I worked with him for several days. So I could post that in the comments section. So, Rebekah, let's get into the notes here. I'm going to let you take over on this. What role do knees play in sex?
Oh, well, that's kind of an interesting one, because I think, first of all, I want to talk about what sex is and what people think sex is, because very often when we think about sex, we think about intercourse. And so clearly knees have an important role in the position of positions for intercourse. Traditional missionary position with a man on top, woman on the bottom. The man is bracing himself on his knees. His leverage is coming from there. You could probably address that better. For a woman with knee pain, there's a certain amount of flexibility you might want in that position. But do knees have to be involved in sex? No. To be honest, I think a lot of people could be having more sex if they redefined what sex was. So there are different activities, shall we say, that could be just as gratifying that don't involve intercourse and that don't involve missionary position for sure. And I think we're going to talk about that more as we go along. So I'm going to throw the question back to you as the knee pain guru. And as a sufferer of knee pain, what do you find that is the role of knees in sex?
Well, I think, and that's why it's so valuable to have you here on the call, is I had more of a conventional perspective of, intercourse, conventional positions and things like that, and how a person who would want to have their knees bend or extend, they have difficulty doing that, and how big of a role it is affecting their sex life. And what I hear you saying is bringing in this whole other conversation around the fact that if we redefine exactly what sex is, then the knees, although they do play a role, they're not playing as great of a role, or there's a greater percentage of our experience of sex could be better without having the knees as involved all the time.
Right. I say this to my clients all the time, and one of the biggest obstacles to good sex is our memories of our past sex. And this isn't just for folks with chronic pain. This can be around aging, right? Our abilities to perform, our strengths and weaknesses, our hormone levels, all of that will change over time. And if you are comparing the sexual encounters you're having now unfavorably to the ones you had in the past, you're really limiting yourself. So, what might your sex be like if you were willing to let go of everything that you had as what good sex looked like and what great sex you had in the past, and just look at who you are now, the body you have now, the partner you have now, and say, what is possible here? How can we make it juicier? How can we make it more fun? What new things can I try with this body that I have right now?
And that's interesting, your approach. The mentality is almost like nothing changes except the mentality towards our perception of sex, of that experience of sex. Yeah.
Because think about it, the biggest sex organ that you have actually is your brain, your enormous brain, and which can get in the way or can enhance your experience. Karen's telling us this is an interesting conversation. Thanks, Karen.
Absolutely. Yeah, and of course, if you're watching this, please like the video, like and share the video while we're on this. I think the more people that are aware and know about the challenges that people run into as far as how knee pain affects your sex life, it would be great for other people to know about this.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, given that one of the things I like to do, Bill, as you know, is really present people with the smorgasbord of what's possible. And there are people who enjoy some pain in their sex life, but we're not talking about that kind of pain, you and I.
It's kind of like that idea that people think they need to push through the pain to get pain. And as long as you start out not in pain, then it's okay to go into pain and push through the pain. Whether it's exercise. And what I hear you saying is that there's aspects or specific people who have specific sexual interests that they would be out of pain and experience enjoyment of, well, maybe you should speak on that. I'm fumbling over the words.
Yeah. Well, so I want to actually say that I have a slightly different opinion. I think you're right that, especially in what you do, that sometimes we have to push through the pain and exercise in order to push ourselves, in order to stretch the muscles. In sexuality, I never recommend pushing through the pain. In fact, I'm a big advocate of breaks are good. And when you go into pain, rather than pushing through it, because if you're in pain, imagine this, you're experiencing pain, but you don't want to disappoint your partner. You feel like you got momentum. You want to keep going. But what your partner energetically is receiving from you is your pain and your struggle. And what you want your partner to be feeling from you is your delight and your turn on. So one of the suggestions I would make if you're living with chronic knee pain and you're in sex and it starts to hurt is to say, hey, honey, I'm in pain right now. Can we switch positions? Can we take a break? Can we do something else? And stop and reorient yourselves. And you know, those breaks can actually build the intimacy. You know, when we sort of build up arousal and then we pull back from it, and then we build it up again, and then we pull back from it, when you finally reach an orgasmic state, generally your orgasm is that much more potent. Mm-hmm. But most people don't want to take a break because they're afraid they're going to lose it.
Right. And this is interesting. This is an interesting piece and how it ties in with how I work with clients and show clients how to work with their knees, is we're continually taking the knee that's in pain to a position of comfort. Mm-hmm. In the position of comfort, it promotes blood flow, oxygen flow, energy flow in the knee, because we're actually switching neurological states in the body. By taking and getting the pressure off of the nerves that are causing the pain, we actually promote this shift of neurological state, which is actually feels really good. Mm-hmm. So to what you're saying, like, really dovetails nicely in terms of how I approach the body in terms of any sort of discomfort and reconnecting with your body in a way that switches that neurological state and allows for that place of feeling good. So that sounds really great.
Yeah, amazing. Well, and you know, just to give a little bit about my background, and you know this, but our viewers don't. So I started by going to a 4-year school for energy healers called the Barbara Brennan School, and was doing laying on of hands energy work with people with all kinds of chronic pain, infertility, cancer, all of those things. And one day I recognized that the energy that I was running, that was running through me and into them, was similar to what we label orgasmic energy or sexual energy. And really what it is life force energy. So when you don't have a full sensual and sexual life, and I don't care whether you have a partner or you don't, if you're single, you can still have a good connection to yourself and your sensuality. But when you're not running that, you're depriving your body of a lot of the energy, oxygen, and blood flow that it needs to create optimal health.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, you know, I think you and I were talking about the cycle that happens when someone's in pain, they don't want to have sex. And when you're not having sex, there's more stress in your body, there's more stress in your relationship, which increases your knee pain. And it's this spiral down. And you and I want to get the spiral going back up.
Right, because it increases tension. The tension in the body increases. That's the stress, the tension, the injury, the compensation, the accidents, the injuries, the traumas that build up in the nervous system. And sex is a great way of beginning to reduce and reverse that process. And if you're in pain, well, it's, like you said, downward spiral.
Yeah. So how do people prep for pain-free sex?
Well, of course, I can go into all my different programs that I offer in terms of getting the knee out of pain, the different positions that we can work with the intrinsic movement of the knee joint. Is that most people think of the knee joint as like the gross motor movement. It extends and it bends. But in actuality, there's intrinsic movements. There's a slight rotation. There's slight side-to-side movement. There's slight forward and back, apart and together, and tilting of the knee joint. And when the nerves in the knee are being squeezed, that's where the body is holding on to protect itself. And when it holds on to protect itself, it squeezes on those nerves, causing pain. The more pain and tension it feels, the tighter the joint squeezes, reducing the space and setting up the conditions for pain to be a perpetual thing. So this makes it difficult for movement. You feel old, for arthritis to set in, the joint to begin to degenerate, and bone on bone, and it just continues on. So as we create comfort, we reverse that process. We switch neurological states so the body's able to relax, create a little bit of space in the knee joint, and then we just continue to build on that. So our focus is, instead on pushing through the pain, we begin to focus on comfort. And a lot of times comfort sounds very foreign. We don't know what it feels like because it feels like we're doing nothing. Really cool part about it is when we start focusing on comfort, it does all of those things that you were talking about, relaxing the tension in the nervous system, de-stresses the body, increases blood flow and oxygen and oxytocin. Like, all of those good feeling things happen when we get the pressure off of those nerves.
Right. So if someone working with you or working with your program is addressing long-term, would you recommend that they would do some of their exercises that you recommend before having sex as a way of loosening themselves up and creating more comfort from the get-go?
Absolutely. Like, doing that before, as well as those places that you were saying, oh, hold on, this doesn't feel so good, let me stop. Work with the program, get the knee comfortable, and then, like you were saying, return back to that place that you just were. And then, like you're saying, the buildup, I'm sorry, the terms that you were using, I'm not using those exactly. You were talking say that again?
No, I said build up is accurate.
Right. The build up. So it actually increases intimacy instead of removing it.
Right. Well, and this also could become a part of your foreplay, because so often we get into a habit of foreplay tends to get shorter and shorter as couples are together longer and longer, because they sort of know what works. And sometimes they just don't have a lot of time. They have sex last thing at night, just when they're tired and worn out and want to go to sleep. So one of the things I would suggest as a tool is knowing when you're at your best and making that your sexy time. If you wake up stiff, but in the middle of the afternoon is when you often feel the best, well, why not make a play date then? Come home for lunch. Meet at a hotel room. So that would be, a number one pointer that I would suggest is knowing when your body is at its best and making that, scheduling in time for that and honoring that.
We have a question that I think would be good to address. It's from Anne, and it says, is life force energy similar to Reiki?
Well, I think that life force energy is life force energy. It's called prana. It's called chi. Reiki is a modality that interacts with your life force energy. The healing training that I went through is a little bit more involved. The school actually trained us in diagnostics. I had to take anatomy and physiology, professional practice ethics, counseling techniques. I had to do my own healing work because often, our bodies hold our emotions. And I'm going to tell you this, Bill, I don't know if you know this, but the knees correspond to the heart. And often when we're suffering heartbreak, we start to manifest knee issues. So as an emotional component to working with your knees, you may want to look at, and if it's the right side of your body, it's men. And if it's the left side of your body, it's women. So have you had difficulty in your love connection, either romantically or with family members? Are your knees carrying your heartbreak? So something to think about there.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I think that was a good piece to bring in to the conversation. I want to go back to a piece that you were talking about in terms of like connection. And this is just thinking through the process. How awesome would it be if you're trying to build intimacy with a partner and you realize that your partner has knee pain, to be able to stop and work with their knee in a way that's supporting them in a position of comfort?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. You know, just if you really slow down, I mean, imagine you're with your partner, they say their knee hurts, they've taught you some of what helps, some of the exercises that you recommend. And I'm imagining, let's imagine, Bill, that it's you and I in bed.
Okay.
You say you're having knee pain, and
right.
We stop, and what I'm doing as I'm helping you with your exercises is enjoying the connection, the feeling of our skin, my hands on your knee, the warmth of your body. You know, just really taking in, because sensuality, right? The foundation of sensuality is our senses. So part of what can happen in the creation of intimacy is feeling your body, your pulse, your heat, and enjoying that connection that we're having. And if I'm really present to it and present to myself, I can feel it enlivening my whole body. Mm-hmm. You know, or while you're doing it, you can gaze into your partner's eyes. You can match your breath to each other. You know, we do this naturally, right? When your kids fall down, what's the first thing you do? You go give them boo-boo hands. You put your hand on their knee or their head or wherever they bump themselves. You know, I'm a trained energy healer, but we all have that capacity.
Mm-hmm. There is a comment, and following up from that, she says, a good point. Thanks, Rebekah. I have a very considerate husband, and I have had to change positions over the years to accommodate the pain. And Ann is in one of my programs. Ann is in the Quit Your Quack 6-week knee pain relief program, as well as Knee Club. So then this is perfect. And just diving in a little bit of a coaching with Ann. And how awesome would that be if you showed your husband some of the working with your knee that feels comfortable, that he can work with your knee instead of you needing to do it? Oh, I think that would be fantastic. I'd love to hear the feedback on that one.
Yeah, and good for you, Ann, because, you know, so many people aren't willing to invest in making things better. And that, you know, they'll immediately go to a pill hoping it's a quick fix. And so I love hearing someone who's willing to invest in really figuring out how to make their life better, like you are with Bill. You know, and a little bit about positions and prepping. And maybe she can chime in with some of the things that she has found work for her. But there are places that make furniture. Pillows are your friend. Mm-hmm. The Liberator Company is one that I highly recommend because of they have different kinds of sex furniture and wedges that can help you get into a position that is more comfortable. You know, I was thinking that a massage table is not a bad investment, because with a massage table, you can raise or lower it. And so if you're more comfortable standing than you are kneeling or sitting, your female partner can lie on the table with her legs over the end, and you can stand. Mm-hmm. And to have easy access for intercourse, you can sit and have easy access for oral sex.
Got it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, which leads us into our next point. Are there any positions that wouldn't affect the knees?
There you go. So I started that great segue. And stop me if I talk too much, because, you know, I get really excited. I could talk about this all day. In fact, about 6 years ago, I decided I wanted my life just to be about having sex and talking about sex. Mm-hmm. Voila. Here's how I got to my career. So those are a few positions. A couple of other things: spooning on your side, scissoring, which doesn't give you great access for face-to-face and kissing, but does give you wonderful access for penetration, while also for the man being able to have access to the woman's genitals for manual stimulation, which, you know, can be very beneficial. A lot of people don't know this, but the vast majority of women do not come from vaginal penetration. They need some clitoral stimulation as well. So, so a scissor position of your legs.
Good. I'd like to interject there. Getting a little bit of feedback. Hear that? Maybe it'll stop. Okay. The spooning and the scissor position, just to interject a little bit on that point. After my knee surgery, and, you know, going through physical therapy, the swelling of the knee, the pain from the surgery scar, the achiness and all of that, spooning made me super hesitant because I was so afraid. It was like I wanted to have my knee packed in pillows. I didn't want anybody near my knee. So the element of needing to get the knee really comfortable first before moving into those types of positions or working with those types of positions, because I just know how it is when there's just the slightest brush or bump on the knee. It's like sends you through the roof, which immediately pulls you out of the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, the thing is that these are, every person is somewhat unique. So figuring out what works for you, maybe you want to have a play date where all you do is experiment with some positions and go, does this one work? Like when you're not trying to actually have intimacy, just having a little, let's see what feels comfortable to me date. Well, this one worked. This one didn't. Okay. You know, you're just doing your research.
Right.
You know, the problem, you know, I know you had mentioned to me that often, you know, laying on the back might be the easiest position, but then you've got the woman in the position of having to leverage herself on her knees. So that's a place where perhaps a massage table can come in handy, or putting the man at the end of the bed so that his legs come over the edge and she can actually be standing. Because I know that I have some muscle weakness in my knees, so it's really hard for me to maintain an intercourse position where I'm on my knees and lifting myself up for a prolonged period. You know, if this is really an issue and you really like that position, you might want to invest in putting some bolts in the ceiling and straps that can be, you know, taken down when you're not using them, but so that you have leverage.
Let's see. Anne has another comment here. I have tried pills over the years. They have ruined my stomach, so now I'm doing very best not taking tablets and doing Bill's program, and I've learned a lot from him. Thank you.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
Testimonial. Yay.
So let's see. We covered the different positions we covered was spooning, scissors, chair sex, men on their back with their legs straight. And then as well as taking the focus off of just being strictly intercourse, you know, exploring and creating new ways of connecting physically with your partner.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, manual stimulation, breaking your dates up into one person being giver and one person being receiver can be a lot of fun. Nice. And that way you can make sure that the person who is, both of you are in the position that is the most comfortable for you, even though it's not a necessity for your genitals to be in contact with each other.
Rebekah, just share, how do you work with people?
I work with people in person here in Asheville. I also work with people over a webcam or phone, and I use everything at my disposal, right? So we talk about the obstacles. You know, you talked about the fear of your knee getting hit, and sometimes that's an obstacle. The fear is greater than the actuality. So what can we do to reduce feelings of fear, inadequacy, incompetency. I use emotional freedom technique. I use access consciousness. We use talk counseling. We create ritual. When I'm working with people in person, I'll often do energy work or body work as well, to build up their, to release obstacles that they're holding in their body. Mm-hmm. And to train in new habits.
And this sounds very, very similar to my approach when I work with clients, because usually where we're getting stuck falls in a blind spot, falls in a place where our neurology doesn't recognize options. Mm-hmm. And what I hear you saying is you're drawing on all of these different approaches and techniques and modalities in your experience to break down and illuminate that blind spot in a way that empowers your clients so they don't have that stuck place.
Right. I mean, for example, I had a client once in my healing practice, a young woman who was a gymnast. She was continuously injuring her right wrist and elbow. And what we found was that there were actually some emotional issues. She was moving too fast. She was pushing too hard. She had a lot of story about how she had to be a certain way in order to make her win her parents' approval. And what it was how it was manifesting in her body was continuously hurting herself so that she would have an excuse to slow down. Mm-hmm. So, you know, we are whole beings, and what's going on with us can sometimes, often have a mental, emotional, and spiritual component that our body is manifesting for us. And it's my experience that you got to work with all of it. So you work with the physiology and the head space, and I often work with the heart space, mm-hmm. the heart space and the soul, so that they can all come together to, you know, create more health.
Mm-hmm. And it's interesting that heart space that you're talking about, because I do bring in a huge emotional component into the work that I do. And I find that the conventional approach, the conventional medical model, is looking solely at the knee. You gotta fix the knee. Like, the knee is wrong. The knee is the problem. And when we look at it as being the weakest link in the series of tension from the head to the feet, and bring all of those components together to go, well, the knee's not necessarily wrong. It's just screaming the loudest. We have other stuff that's pulling tighter in the body. We have this mentality that is sabotaging the process of creating comfort in the body. We have the emotional component, like you were saying, something that we picked up when we were a child, or feeling unworthy, or that we need to push ourselves. That was my own story in terms of re-injuring my knee 4 times before I went to the doctor. You know, like I was undeserving of being out of pain. Mm-hmm. You know, that was a big realization when I got to that place. It was a huge aha for me. So yeah, thank you for bringing that to the table. So it would be interesting for me, this is just kind of thinking out loud, the potential for us to do a class together. I think that would be kind of fun. Mm-hmm. We're going to talk about that afterwards. If there is anyone that is interested in a class with Rebekah and I, possibly in the Asheville area, possibly remotely, please type that in. If you aren't seeing this live, you can type that in afterwards. We will be notified of that. Rebekah, how would someone get in touch with you if they wanted to work with you?
Well, there's a lot of resources on my website, which is called Pleasure Evolution. And the reason it's called Pleasure Evolution is because we've all had enough pain. And I'm sure all your viewers have had enough pain to last a lifetime, right? So we can, I believe that we can learn and grow from following our pleasure. So my website is pleasureevolution.com, and I offer a free half-hour consultation if someone is interested in claiming more of themselves as an erotic being, to see what's possible working with me. So
Great. Thank you. And if there's any questions, anyone's joining us on the call and would like to ask a question below, please do so. Otherwise, we're going to be wrapping this up shortly. If you're watching us live, please like and share the video. Subscribe to my channel, The Knee Pain Guru. If you would like more information about how to get your knees out of pain, head over to thekneepainguru.com. I have a 7-day knee pain reduction challenge that would be ideal for you to get into and begin working with your knees at no risk to you, because we're focusing on comfort.
Cool.
Yeah, so we're going to wrap this up for today.
What would we teach, Bill? What would we teach in that class?
I think there's this piece of us working with the physical body to shift neurological states, like a way of supporting the body physically, releasing tension in the lower back, in the hips, in the legs, in the knees, in the neck, in the shoulders. I think there's a lot when I work with clients in my programs. I'm bringing all of that to the table, even though we're starting our focus on the knees. These are connected to all of those other places. So as the knees quiet down and get more comfortable, you get more aware and can feel those other areas that have been pulling tighter that you didn't even know were pulling tighter because all you could do is focus on the knees. So I'm thinking there's a way of us figuring out how to increase and build that intimacy with a partner by working with their physical body and shifting that neurological state.
Got it. Yeah. So
instantaneous. When you get the position of comfort and you're dialoguing with your partner while you're doing it, to find that place where it feels really good, you're tapping into the entire neurology of the body as well as the network of fascia that has all that feeling and connection and all that with every other part of the body.
Got it. Awesome. Sounds like fun to me.
Well, we'll chat about that offline after we're done here. But, well, Rebekah, I want to thank you so much for being here. This was a lot of fun chatting with you. I think you made me blush a few times, which is okay.
That's kind of what I live for, Bill. You're cute when you blush.
Perfect. Okay. Well, thanks, everyone. This is going to be up on Facebook as well as YouTube. If you, once again, thekneepainguru.com, pleasureevolution.com. And thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, Bill. It was great.
Okay. Bye-bye.